All right, we're live. All right, guys, welcome to the Great Pill Podcast. Sorry, a little bit late. We had technical difficulties on our end, but we have myself, Angelus, uh, my wifey here, Minky. I'm calling her Minky now. We already going with pet names. But,
I'm gonna call you Angie.
I'm okay with that. Minka and special guest here, Deuce. Say what's up, Deuce. All right, we're gonna do this a little bit differently because we have guests kind of slowly trickling in. So we're gonna keep it moving as we're going. Today's topic, we're gonna pretty much talk about a little bit triggering, but it's pretty much the same relatable conversation about the youth today, whether it's Generation Z, Y, X, whatever the hell's going on to these days, old school versus new schools. How many times we need to keep telling people, especially our youth, what's going on today. So we're gonna kick it off from there. All right. Yeah. I ain't gonna lie, that I'm not gonna say it made me feel like I want to jump off a cliff with the car, but damn, it get me amped up when I hear that.
My New York Phillies started vibrating. My Tim started vibrating.
Hey man, you know how we do. Jersey all day, representing. Gotta represent. All right, but again, hello everybody. Appreciate y'all for coming in. Want to kick this conversation off, just pretty much talking about, like I said, the generation today. I want to be a little bit more sarcastic asshole with this situation.
Finally. I've been waiting for your sarcastic asshole to come out. You're all proper in front of everyone.
It's there, but it's a little bit triggering because, like I said, I had this conversation not too long ago, and it was pretty much, I guess I say, my own little epiphany when it comes to the youth today. You know, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but beep beep 43. You know, knock on wood. I don't like to even share that much at all, but. It's like work, you know, you just the work ethic. You have young guys come in, could be like a month in or a year in. They don't know what they want to do with their life. Sagging pants. Don't know how to critique themselves when it comes to that general manner. And it's pretty much it's pissing me off. You know what I'm saying? To the point where I look back on my youth and I have elders and then some. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have really pagers, you know, as far as I can remember far back. I mean, I had them, but it went by so quick. Now we got social media. But I can remember back in the day, I could sit there with my grandmother. I can sit with my mom. I can sit with, you know, my elders, you know, my aunts, you know, even my older friends that was like, you know, 10 years, you know, they was just going to college. I'm just in high school. And I can actually listen to them, you know, talk about their experiences, what's going on with their lives, whether they're dating, whether just careers, whether it's anything. And I would literally take those because I was raised up pretty much around women, but I can literally take those experiences they have telling me or just talking. Okay. And when I come up to a girl or I come up to a job, just applying for a job or just how to carry myself at a club or a place of business, hell, even at the library, people still go there, and you act a certain way. You put a certain face on. You put a certain mask on when you act certain way. If you're a lady, act like a lady. If you're a gentleman, act like a gentleman. If you're an employee at McDonald's, hell, act like a goddamn employee at McDonald's. But I just want to pretty much put it out there. So, what do y'all guys think about that? Because it's driving me crazy. So, I don't know what y'all think. Minka?
I need you to repeat the question a little bit better for me.
Why is the youth acting retarded?
Okay, that's a lot better. Thank you. That's a lot better.
I feel a lot of context in this bad boy. This what's going on? Because I see things differently on my end. So I don't know. Maybe y'all got a different perspective than me. Every time I turn around, it just like I feel like I want to choke somebody. But at the same time,
I think that's the problem though.
What's the
I
problem?
think your
Me?
attitude. Yeah, hell yeah, you're the problem.
Okay. What's going on with my attitude?
Think about it this way. This is the way I like to think about it, right? When I was like 15 and I was like on some weird shit, everybody that was an older generation thought I was insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing now. I look at the generation now, I'm like, what the fuck are they? What are they doing? Right? It looks kind of wild. But at the same time, it's their own form of like expression, artistic talents. I mean, even the stuff that they're wearing, like what, you're 40, whatever. So that means
40 whatever.
it was like the 90s were your kick, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say 90s was my
So you got a lot of nerve talking about sagging pants if you were from the 90s.
Okay.
In Jersey? For real?
Okay. Well, let's go on that one real quick. Let's teeter that one down. Do you know the meaning behind when somebody wear their sagging pants?
Isn't it jail? Like if you sag your pants, you're available?
It's two things. Well, we're there. It's two things. When you're in prison or you in the incarcerated facility and you have your pants sagging, it means two things. A, you wasn't a top dog or you were scared to fight. And two, you was inviting yourself for some bump and grind from one man to another. So you selling your ass cheek for protection. Okay? Now, that's prison. That's been going on for how long, dudes? Since prison system was even created up to now?
66.
Okay. Now, looking forward now to the younger generation now, even then, because even my generation was still doing it, most of them, but not a lot. So if I walk past somebody, we'll just throw them, say here relative. If my nephew walked past me, and this is how I feel, any other older generation can let me know. If I have my nephew walk past me, 16, and got his pants sagging, no belt, no nothing, I'm grabbing his ass cheek. And just to show him exactly, yo, you need to stop that. I'm gonna grab his pants and I'm gonna yank it up on his butt. You need to act right. Or I'm gonna come at him with a verbal tone and explain to him what this is about. Because there's no way you should be act like that. And that's the first one replying back to you as far as the pants sagging. So everybody didn't do that in the 90s. But if they did it, they was coming fresh out of jail, like, hey, they had to act right. Now, what's going on with everything else with the generation that you want to bring up?
Well, I'm like, ¿qué? That didn't make any sense. What I'm saying is like that's their form of expression, whatever it is. And it's what I used was an example of the 90s when people were sagging their pants, and you're saying, okay.
No, I'm responding to you. You said, really? Jersey pants, people sagging, that was their thing? It's always been their thing.
Right. But
a lot of people now don't know the definition or the meaning behind that. If you did, the same way, like, I say guys for guys, I'm sure women had their own little thing. Like if we joke around with guys like gay, you know what I'm saying? Or they some little trigger words with other guys. So why would, if I walk in my house and I'm looking at anything less than my best, and somebody's gonna look at me like, okay, that guy is doing this. So if I walk on my door and I have my pants sagging and I walk around Deuce, his family, his neighbor, his family and friends, instantly they're gonna think like, okay, well, clearly prison, this is what he related to, this is what he associated with. I don't want to be bothered with that. So why would other people be like that too? Now again, I'm responding to that part of the pants sagging.
Maybe I'm just dumb today that I don't understand what you're saying.
So go ahead, Deuce.
I'll jump in about the pants sagging part. Another part of it is like very common sense. In jail, you're not allowed to have a belt. You can't have anything that you can kill yourself with, strangle yourself with. So a lot of guys in jail got used to walking around without a belt on and stuff like that. And when they got out of jail, they got used to not wearing a belt. So they just wasn't wearing a belt. So a lot of trends that come from jail, down to slang terminology. So everything you hear that like Wu-Tang and all of that peace, God, son, all that stuff like that stuff got popular in the jails. Now I got, so is it life imitating art or art imitating life? We could go circles with that one. But a lot of people got into that, which was the 5% of nation of gods and earths. They got into that in jail. And when they came out talking about, yo, son, what's up, God, peace, God, and all that stuff. So a lot of stuff, a lot of trends that happened in jail would find its way to the streets. And obviously these are the guys that got respect when they got back. Oh, he just did a bid, da da da. So everything that he says and does is godly. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody wants to emulate because now he has like respect. On
Right.
the part moving away from just the pants sagging part, just the problem I think with this generation is there's no gap now. You know, just like he was saying with kids not, you know, okay, self-expression is one thing, but they're not being taught what's time and place appropriate, right? There's a time and a place for that. How I dress on the block with my friends is different than how I dress when I go to work. How I speak around my friends is different than how I speak in my house. And you know what I'm saying? There's a switch that has to get turned off and turned on. The difference between casual and professionalism. And kids aren't being taught that now. And if you look at it, the gaps between our family members and our generations is getting shorter and shorter. Because I just came from being an Army recruiter, and I'm dealing with, I had to deal with like teenagers. That was the worst experience of my life. But then if you look at it, I was meeting grandmothers that were my age. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's always been that way though.
No, not always. Because even if you had a teenage mother, right? You typically had a grandmother that was at least an adult when you that was at least an adult when she had a mother, right? Very rarely did you have second, third, and fourth generation teenage mother. But you also have to realize back in the day, if you had a baby as a teenager, you were married. Because you used to be able to get married at 16. You used to be able to get married at 17. You weren't a baby mother at 16 years old. So now if you got a 16-year-old mother, and then you got a 16-year-old, you know, if the mother, you know, say the grandmother, like by the time I met her, 32 years old, she's grandmother. She had her daughter at 16. Her daughter turns around and has a baby at 16. By 32 years old, she's a grandparent. There's no real separation, right? Because we pick up mannerisms, we pick up work ethic, and we pick up lessons from our older generation. We like when we were growing up, my grandfather was in his 50s, 60s. You know, he taught me work ethic. He taught me stoicism. He taught me how to play chess. He taught me, quiet dignity. At 30-something years old, who could teach a young kid? My grandfather told me I played chess at 6. What are these kids learning from their 30-something-year-old grandfathers? They still young. They still going to the club. They still partying. Right? They don't discipline. They're not learning discipline. And I think that's what the problem with this generation is. They don't have any discipline and they don't have any
But you know what I think the issue that I have is that we're saying this generation when it's not primarily just the entire generation. That's just summing them all up. Because just as many, like we've never had as many we've never had as many child geniuses as we've had in the last 10 years either. So I think I don't think it's fair to like generalize them all as like the entire generation. I hear what you're saying, but like,
is it fair to say society?
Society.
Because if we're not using generation, we can use society. Because I'm speaking just society overall with the youth today.
Yeah, like the youth that I had to deal with. We talking, let's say 17.
We're doing comparisons now.
17 to 28.
I'm gonna have to disagree. I mean, it's cool. We have a disagreement because, like, I disagree. Where I don't think the entire youth or even the majority of them are little shit poop heads. You like that? I'm trying to catch myself now. But I'm also 30, so like I feel like I see a lot of like differences, and I think that it's just misunderstood. I mean, granted, like 100%, there are some stupid people, whether it's adults or teens or whatever age, that they're doing stupid. And I think it does attest to what you're saying. It's like children raising children, people not being taught how to behave in certain situations, not being taught how to be an adult. Like there's a lot of, I mean, I have a nephew that his dad died, and we were walking one day, and I was on the outside, like on the side of the sidewalk where the cars were. And I told him, I'm like, if you're walking with any female, you always walk on the outside and she walks closer to the home. And I explained that to him. He didn't know that, right? But his dad died. So he didn't really have a lot of males that could teach him that. And like, that's different now. There's a lot more that came into the picture, but that's just like one of the examples that attest to what you're saying. I get that, but I just don't think this youth is as bad as we make it out to be.
Well, let me challenge Rogue Nerd because she said I actually think the youth is more woke.
That's my
Can
girl.
we
That's
can
my
we
girl.
can we clarify? Can we clarify that? Because what we mean by most woke are we? Because like I just watched a clip where they're actually broke down brackets of the Gen Z. I didn't know nothing about no Gen Z. I know when you mentioned the age gap between I think it's like 18 to 28, and then that's Gen Z, and then you're considered as a millennium,
Yeah,
Minka, because you're up to so anything up to 30 is considered 30 and down is a millennium, and then anything below that is like a Gen Z, and they're
Yeah.
supposed
it's
to be
like
on the same they're supposed to be on the same bracket as far as the
Millennial.
yeah
No,
yeah yeah
a bunch of millennials got pissed off and created their own bracket of the millennials so that they wouldn't be classified as like millennials. And wait,
yeah. In your age bracket you're considered as a millennium. Anything less because I think I remember, and I'm not trying to throw Rogue's age number out there, but she's a little bit young, so she's technically like Gen Z, I'm guessing. But I want to challenge the fact that she said she think that youth is more woke. So I don't know if she's talking about primarily like her offspring or the family close to her, or she's mostly in what way are we speaking about woke? Or we're speaking about that's why I brought up the Generation Z and stuff because most of them is like now it's about the tech savvy, the media. So what we mean by woke? Are we speaking about woke in the region of just being more tech savvy woke? Or are we speaking of the woke of just like, hey, let me have that third on my head to be more aware, social aware situations? Because that part I don't see.
I see both. I think if anything, your eyes are closed and don't want to see it because this generation is. I mean, you include that tech savvy part. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about texting. It's the amount of information that's attributed to this newer generation. They know so much more than what we did or what I did at their age, and so on and so forth. Like they're not. They're challenging the system. They're challenging the government. They're challenging what's happening with global climate global climate.
I know what you're talking about, but the older generation wasn't.
Not as much as now, no.
Hmm.
I
well, I
mean,
mean,
we
okay,
had go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm just one
No,
point I
go
want to make.
ahead,
We
please.
talking generation wise. That's our generation, right? Because I'm 34, right? So we and I in the same generational bracket. All of us actually are. So we talk like the younger generation
I
will
mean, I'm
start
10
to
years old,
like
but go ahead. I'm
you,
out.
you are, but you're still technically a millennial. Cause I think because everything goes like every 33 years.
No,
Oh no,
So
he's
no, no,
actually
I'm out.
he's Generation X. It's
you still
millennial is yeah, millennial is 1981 to 1996, so 26 to 41,
okay.
and Generation X is 42 to 57 currently. Generation Z is 10 years old to 25 years old.
They keep sliding the scale because I thought it was 78, which you still
Yeah,
would,
because
would
I'm
rank
seeing
it.
here. Yeah, I'm seeing here. One says millennium between 24 and 38, and then Z is 13 to 23.
It's whatever, dude. It's
I,
a
that's.
couple
I
years.
mean,
Sure, you're
this
a
is
millennial. We're all millennials. It's fine.
this is a year I
They're
don't want to
sliding.
be. I
They're
don't-
sliding.
yeah,
They
yeah,
slide it when they want to.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
the new generation is pretty much anybody born, I say like late 90s, like 98 to now, which is like the iPhone generation
yeah.
Hmm.
or
I agree
Generation
with
Z.
that. Yeah, yeah. I agree with that.
I got a
Um,
story. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh, so no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, no, no. I'm gonna mute myself. Trust me. I do it all the time. Please.
With the woke thing and stuff, like a lot of stuff that's going on, the people that are doing this actually our age. It's actually our generation. The new generation is barely in college. The 22 years old, 21. They're just now graduating college, right? Now, are they more conscious of what's going on around them? Absolutely, but that's due to technology. Technology causes that because now you have more access than ever. And you know what I'm saying? You have information, you have a world of information at your fingertips. You know what I'm saying? Pick up your phone, you can Google it and get an answer to anything you want. Or you can get the answer you're looking for.
Right. Which pretty much chimes in what Primal comment. He said the youth have less real world experience, and I will agree with that.
Absolutely.
Oh, 100%. They're retarded in that
Oh, so
aspect.
that kind of
The
contradicts
social
what you're that kind of contradicts what
no, no,
you
no.
and the other comments saying about being woke. So that's why I was asking
No, that does
what we
not
mean.
mean woke. What we just said was you're putting words into my mouth. What we were talking about is their social skills in general, meaning their awkwardness, their inability to approach someone, their inability to make friends like face to face, but they can do it this way. They can make friends on a podcast, they can make friends on a group chat, they can make friends playing video games. They have friends all around the world, but when it comes to face interaction, that's a social issue that's just beyond me that I absolutely agree with that.
Okay, because I feel like how do we separate the two then? Because my argument, and like I said, I'm keeping this strictly dick mode. How do no pun intended? How do we keep this separated? Because it seemed like hear me if I'm correct, because I'm pretty much saying all the generation. I'm just gonna just throw it out there. I'm feeling a good 90%, strong 90% of the younger generation is not worth the tea they dip the bag in the water.
What does
It's
that mean?
I'm making up metaphors as I go.
Oh, man.
I'm saying like they're not worth their salt. It's just not working out. Like and I want to be I really didn't want to be a jerk because I like I said, I really had thought about this because I felt like, man, if we can somehow flip the switch on the age bracket, and I mean like take the younger generation and shift them over to our generation, let them live and go through the experiences that we went through, whether it was all types of races, all types of struggles, all types of segregation. So now, and then bring them back to their current time state and say, hey, now what you think? How do you feel? What would you do differently now? Because that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like they're not, and it comes back, and I'm chiming in where Primal said the youth have less real world experience. You're pretty much in your house, like you just said, on your phone, social awkwardness. You'd rather make a best friend through your iPad, your tablet, than versus just get out the door. Hell, we had a conversation not too long ago where somebody was super excited. Excuse me, matter of fact, and just to add on to that one, on Primal Studies, and not saying that is them the reason, but Primal Studies had somebody that was pretty much a little bit, more claustrophobic in the house, and they decided to actually have real world experience, get out the house, and enjoy themselves. Cool points for them to doing so, and it came out to a very positive experience. So
I'm
what?
just gonna let you know right now. I didn't meditate today, so you're gonna have it today because,
Let's get
like,
it.
let's
Let's
get
get
it
it.
because
I'm ready.
that is the stupidest thing I ever heard. What
She
I'm
wants to
saying
do
is, if you actually pay attention to what this generation is doing, you have kids going against the Senate. You have kids that are making posts all over the world about all different sorts of things that are
Oh, I
happening.
agree. I
You're
see them.
talking about if they went back and like actually like had to deal with the racism. What did we have? Where were you during the pandemic? I was here in LA and in Arizona, and everybody was all throughout the streets. And while on the media it was talking about them looting and just stealing shit, that's not what it was when you were down on the ground. Everybody was pissed off. Everybody was there for an actual moral. It's you had the Me Too movement, you had Black Lives Mattered, you had the opposite of like All Lives Mattered, you had the Asian community going into it, you had what else was there? There was a pandemic, everyone had to start going and like navigate doing everything remotely. You had pollution and ocean pollution. There's like at least 5 or 6 people that are Generation Z or Generation Z that I can list off that have created
I hate
organizations
those
that
letters.
go hands on, huh?
I hate those letters, but go ahead.
Whatever. It's the point is that they are down on the ground. There's a kid that raised $3 million and they created a little thing that actually floats on the ocean top and collects debris and collects garbage. That's I mean, I'm just like I'm kind of like taken aback at the fact that like it sounds like you have like a general belief system based off of things that you see on like media of like some stupid kid beating up an elderly person. I get that.
No, no,
That's
no, 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 no,
stupid.
no. I'm going by because I'm literally going by when I walk out my door and I see the things. Like if there's these few things I named, like with just work in general, But we're gonna hold that for a minute. But what's going on,
Hey.
Roner? I saw you crack your knuckles and everything. Seemed like you're ready to get it in. So
Oh no, I
let's
just
get it in.
joints are hurting me. But
Okay.
hello.
Hello.
Hi, Mika. I agree with you.
What's up, girl? Okay, finally, I have someone on my.
Is that 100% or we at 98.999%? You agree with Mika?
I think that what I had said about I feel like the youth is more woke. What I meant by that, let me see. I wrote something in the chat. I said I think polls have shown the youth is more open-minded, for example, when it comes to gender and politically. So the youth that I have seen, and being on Twitch, I am around a lot of streamers who are younger than me. I'm about to be 34. Twitch has a lot of, those, I don't know what the letters are, but, let's go with it. And I've seen a lot of activism. I've seen a lot of, cancel culture and Me Too, I feel like is a product of those things. Like in its best intention, it's supposed to hold powerful people accountable, or people who have some status accountable for certain things not being acceptable anymore, whether it be like women not being treated a certain way, or maybe someone did something that is not socially acceptable and they are being held accountable for it. Now, don't get me wrong, I know it goes off the handles, but in its best, that was the goal of it, was to have it in its best intention. And what was I going to say? Oh, like with gender, all of these pronouns and stuff, evolving and just accepting people's sexual identities and things like that is what I meant by more open-minded. You notice that polls have shown that the youth is more gender fluid, for example. What's something else? And then when it comes to politically, I watch a lot of politics. I even have a few friends that work for TYT. So it's like the biggest news online show in the world. And they are like the home of progressives. They got AOC where she is and shit like that. So can we curse? I don't know, the YouTube rules.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, I'm a Twitch streamer.
Okay.
So
welcome to the dark side.
Yeah. But they show a lot of polling that shows that well, pretty much, to keep it short without getting into that road, the how people are saying the right wing feels like the dinosaurs are kind of dying out. That's because the youth is more politically aware, whether it be the internet, whether it be evolution, whether it be being more connected because of the internet to other countries and cultures. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of aspects with where the United States is behind most of the other first world countries in a lot of aspects, and we're like, yo, let's catch up. So the youth is thinking more European kind of political status, which is more ahead, and we're behind. So I think that there's a lot of ways that the youth is pushing forward. I mean, do they get out of hand with it? I mean, yeah, there's the whole comedians not going to colleges aspect of things, but
so let me hear you what I'm saying. So I feel like you're saying that the youth today, with the ZX, whatever the crap they call themselves, they're woke on the more the tech side, the more political side, the more being activist side on that end.
That and the on a social side too, in some aspects. I don't think that, for example, Fresh and Fit is a good mirror of society. I think that they're an anomaly.
Okay.
Well, I think they're more. you know what number one thing that I found in that generation, and I will say it for the most part in that generation, I feel like they are more their emotional intelligence is more developed. And it's from what I've
Okay.
seen all the way from like children to the young adults.
Okay, 'cause I do feel like the people who like watch and listen to Fresh and Fit are emotionally stunted. Like when I hear that stuff and I show it to other people, they find it to be very, very odd, and they're like, I've never heard things like this before. And I know that a lot of people who are in that space think that they sound normal, but I don't think that they realize how odd they actually sound.
Which is weird because and again, just still trying to play devil's advocate here because the chats that I read on their end, they pretty much feel like they understand 100%. And if you
Of course
debate
they
them,
do,
exactly,
because they're
if you
they're dense in the head.
well, we'll hold that right there.
But it's also the target
shout out,
market. Sorry,
hold on,
I'm just
you're good. I just want to give a special shout out to Primal Study. What's going on, man?
Not too much. How are you all tonight?
All right. First of all, how you feeling, brother? Because I
I'm
had
better.
to check.
Yeah,
I had to check up on you. I had to check up on you, man.
I could only talk consistently for about an hour at a stretch. That's why I haven't been streaming. So like the past couple of weeks, I did a stream
That's
last night.
lightweight. I did a 7-hour stream my last stream. Y'all are light over here on YouTube.
Unfortunately, Rogue, he had caught the.
I had COVID and I couldn't.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't.
She's like, you a bitch.
I hope you're feeling better.
After about an hour of talking, that was like my voice. I would just either cough too much or have to pause or whatever.
I hope you're feeling better.
I'm getting there. But it's just it
had
takes
it
a while.
my last day of quarantine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It just takes a while.
Well, how long was you feeling? How long was you feeling? Out of it.
So, Deuce, yeah.
Yeah, when you had COVID, because I was gonna like chime in on that one because I had it. I think like my 7 days, and I was feeling a little bit better. I think, matter of fact, I was pointing the finger at everybody, so I was kind of like, okay, Primal cursed me, Minka cursed me.
I never caught it.
Yeah, listen, I was ducking it the whole 2 years. I was living in New Orleans previously, which was like the #1 infection rate in the world.
Yeah,
that was wild. I was ducking it.
I thought I was dodging a bullet, and it hit me, and I was like,
I'm gonna catch it next week because of that dab.
And then I'm here in Germany now, and I caught it because somebody came back from America. I hadn't seen him in a while, and I was like, "Hey, man, what's up?" Next day, they was like, "Hey, you got COVID."
Oh, damn!
Oh, man.
Give you the cooties.
Yeah, I had Omicron though, so it doesn't mess with your respiratory system or anything like that. It's just it just felt like painful. Like my back was hurting. I was like, "Man, my back hurt." That's a weird symptom.
That was weird. I had the cough and the headache, and then I did the fever. Then I just started coughing up everything. So
yeah, I had the headache, the chills, and then my back was hurting for like 2 days.
And like little aches,
and then I had aches all over my body. Yeah, and then that was it.
Yeah. So yeah, I gotta jump in and say, every generation since the Great Depression / World War II has progressively become weaker and less disciplined and producing less things, right? So if you look at how many kids were 25 living in their parents' house still on their phone plan 30 years ago?
I got some uncles like that.
We're also talking about a huge gap in the financial system.
I don't care. Figure it out. You have to. That's your role as an adult. Is you figure it out.
Like, I disagree with that.
Yeah. No.
I disagree with
something.
Let me ask you a couple questions. So, what age did you join the military?
Straight out of college.
Okay, and where do you live?
In America?
No, I mean what state?
Well, I was in Ohio at the time, and then I moved to Texas, and then I moved to Kansas, and I was in Afghanistan. And anyway, okay, continue on.
So the thing that I'm trying to get at is that like you did it smart. You did a great job, and you were able to financially set yourself up to be able to get to that point. I got people that I know, like the majority of people that I know that have gotten out of college are working at Starbucks or an entry level position where they're being paid $15 to $16 an hour.
What did they major in?
Different things. It wasn't like communications. It wasn't like a basic thing. I've got a girlfriend that's $200,000 in debt. She majored in psychology. She works at she's working as a therapist.
Of course.
But
I'm just saying, like, you have
what's
to go, you have to
funny,
choose wisely. You
right?
have
But
to
Well,
choose a
I
but
think
career
that
again,
progression
pulling
path.
yourself up by the bootstraps when you don't have bootstraps is
This is
it,
the adult world. You have to go out and figure it out.
I
Nobody's
understand
here
it's
to
the
hold your
adult world,
hand.
but
Yeah.
I don't agree with that mindset per se,
You
because
don't
like I
agree
don't
with go make your own way.
that's not what I'm saying. I think that wording it that way is practically propaganda. I
Hmm.
think that I think that pull yourself up by the bootstraps
Did I ever
when
say
there are
that? I
certain
said make your own
I'm
path.
saying that I'm saying that I think that that's an equivalent mindset. I think that um I think that telling people that you need to go to college and then them getting in all of this debt, and when other countries have college for free, in Denmark you get paid to go to college. I think that I think that first off, that American mindset is misguided. Then on top of that, to have two jobs and still not be able to afford rent when everything is skyrocketing, and I don't think that that is a productive society. I don't think that
Why I never advise people to go to college. I say unless you're going to be a
I'm not even I didn't
lawyer
even
or a
mention college.
doctor
I did mention
or
college, but
yeah.
you, because you mentioned college, but I don't even you
I'd
know
like to.
I
Go
just
ahead.
think that
With the
the
abundance
way
of
that
information out there, everybody has a cell phone nowadays. Everybody
Correct.
has these resources that they can do the research and they can go find
I
a
can
good
understand
path.
that, but I don't think that it's as simplistic as honestly right wing people tend to make it seem. And but even not going down that path, because I feel very strongly like about that, and I think that there's a lot of evidence, like there's literal like studies and polling to counteract some of the things that you're saying that I can't pull off the top of my head, which is why I decline doing political streams, because I've been asked a few times. But
Oh, you're fine. There's nothing political here. It's just pretty
Yeah,
much just
no.
open conversation about the
no,
generation
I
and how
mean
we
that
feel.
if I were like like if I were like this with like I know
Yeah.
why people ask me to be a political streamer is because I know they can pull like different like facts from here. I can't remember the facts.
Well,
I just
let me
know for a fact that I
I'd
seen
like
them,
to say.
but
Okay.
I think that the whole like you can go on the internet and do this and that. I think that that's another example of how the youth is doing well. The youth has figured out a way to monetize themselves, to brand themselves, to hustle, make YouTubes, to like, okay, society told me I needed to go to college and do it this way. And I think that the youth has skirted around that and has made money in an unconventional way that still isn't completely respected. And I think that that's another way that the youth has like kind of turned it topsy-turvy on his head and is doing better.
Okay, well, I'll let Mika go, but let me poke the bear a little bit because you said something, and I'll let Mika chime in on that because you said something that was very interesting. You said, lace them up by this bootstrap when Primal was said, hey, options and resources to actually find better ways and better options. So, what would y'all say? Because it seemed like we're in opposing sides with this one. So, what would you say make the sense? Rogue said the generation now is more woke. So, what would they have to do to not pull them up by the bootstraps, but have the resources and what they need to do? They need to do because unless you want to chime in, Deuce, but Mika
I
has
think
something.
that voting locally is a way that you can do, like try to encourage, because I think that there's a lot of policies in place that hinder people, and I think voting locally and like knowing who you're voting for locally can try to help move change, because um, that's the only way that you'll have policy that helps society.
I have to disagree with that. I don't think this has anything to do with voting locally and having policies change. I think believing that the government, which created so many problems, is going to fix these problems is one of
No,
the
I don't
silliest
think it's going to
ideas.
fix problems, but I
Well,
think that, for example, there are certain things. An example is there are certain policies that were created to hinder Black people. And the only way that you would change that is by challenging policy.
And there are policies that are getting done that way, meaning they are trying to retract certain ones that have been hindering certain whatever, right? I'm saying that doesn't have anything to do with it, because the idea that, first of all, the statement earlier of like kids living at their mother's house and like being on the family phone plan, again, we're in a financial state where it's not uncommon to be on a family plan at 20, 30 years old and not live with your parents. And the generation that we're talking about, the oldest of this generation is about 25 years old. So that means they're also the generation that's barely starting to come into the workplace, which also means that the generation that you're actually talking about is a millennial generation, where they had the most amount of people that were still living at home. It does not apply to this generation. That's actually not true in any capacity, because there hasn't even been enough studies to state that yet. So that's number one. Number two, the idea to bring it about and like pick yourself up from the bootstraps. Again, we're talking about a generation that's either, as an adult, 18 to 25 years old. The rest of them are still teenagers or kids. And not only that, we've had the highest rate of unemployment in the last 5 years. But what people don't focus on is that we have also had the highest rate of entrepreneurs of any year in society in the United States of America. So if you have those facts that come from the census from 2010 and 2020, then you can actually gather this generation's doing pretty good, considering that. Not only that, but if you're talking about, you mentioned about the invention of things, there are so many things that have been invented, including software and machines, which I was just talking about earlier, like the one that they created. They're literally nets that just float in the ocean and pick up all this debris. Then they've also done things where they're making more companies are utilizing things that are only made out of recycled plastics and stuff. They're like melting them and reusing them. There are so many. You can literally go on Google and do a search of like.
Is that the young generation, or
Yeah,
is that
That's
our
the young.
generation?
No, that's the young generation. That's not the millennials.
Yeah, I think he's right.
This
The
like
young generation don't own any companies to do that.
yes they do.
No, listen. Okay, wait.
Go
Because
ahead.
a lot of the stuff that she attributed earlier about like a lot of the innovation that's happened in the last like 10 to 15 years can be attributed to
Not 10 and
ours.
15. Not 10 and
10 or
15. I'm
15.
talking about the past 5 years. I'm talking specifically the last 5 years, because take into consideration, our generation has been around for a little bit, right? We've been able to come up with some stuff. The newer generation is what about the 8 years since they've been from 18 to 25. That's about 8 years. Right? No, 7 years. So I'm talking about the things in the last 7 years. You're also looking at cryptocurrency. You're also looking at NFTs.
But they didn't create cryptocurrency. They're the biggest consumer, right, or buyer, or whatever it is you do. But they didn't create it.
Right, cryptocurrency was created in the 1980s. It did not pick up until 2016, where it skyrocketed, went down again, and then it's come back most in the recent years.
Right.
But the
Most of
drive.
the software engineers, they're 30-something years, they're early.
But where did the drive come from? Where did the popularity? Where did the push come from? Because it came from the millennials for sure.
They're the target audience. They're the target audience. But that's not innovation. They haven't been around. They haven't been on Earth long enough to create anything innovative. So this is why people got to be careful about throwing that word genius around, because genius actually means to like make like a significant change. You can have genius level intellect, right? But you're not a genius unless you actually do something like new. Like you know,
Right,
do something new.
So if you take a look
Like
at
Mark
how
Zuckerberg was a genius for his time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he's in our generation.
so let me put it this way, because we're just spitting out a bunch of like opinions right here.
That's part of the
I don't know
conversation.
anything about cryptocurrency. I
No,
can't give any opinion on that one.
No, bro, you're good.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I don't know.
I don't know
anything about crypto.
Either, but I hear
I
what
got nothing
everybody's
on
here.
that
I
one.
learned what I learned, and that's pretty much where the ball game goes from there. So
I lost $400. I don't know nothing about cryptocurrency
exactly.
I didn't even try.
I'm not going to try.
I don't gamble.
Last time I heard about cryptocurrency, they was doing they got scammers, and shout out to
I
the
still
crypto
keep
queen.
cash.
Shout
I
out to the
still
crypto
keep
queen,
cash in
'cause I
my
heard about her too.
I still keep cash money. So
But I wanted to say about the whole pull yourself up in the bootstrap. There's a thing that people have to understand. Like there was a TED talk that I watched one time, and it was about grit, right? People having grit. People being able to do hard things and make hard choices, and you know what I'm saying, and bear through like hard times.
Mhm.
A lot of our generation, even in the generation coming behind us, a lot of them don't have grit. They don't have resilience.
I can
Me
see
being an
that.
army, me
I agree
being
with
an army
that.
recruiter, there was a lot of kids that got pushed through school. Like, and so with school, listen,
No
I could do
child
this.
left behind.
Yeah, no child left behind and stuff like that. I came out of school like right when that came out, so I was already left behind. So, but I just test very well. But I finished college or whatever. But I had to do a fifth year high school. I was a terrible high school student. But
Mhm.
I learned my lesson, and that's the thing. That fifth year high school, like, yeah, some people could get down on yourself, and some people could be like, oh, they could, be very insecure about it. It made me hungry because all my other friends left and went to college and got to enjoy their experiences, and I had to stay back in school.
Can
Then
I
I
ask
started,
you a personal question? No,
yeah.
it's not personal. Did you learn those attributes from family members?
I learned no, like you get a little piece from everybody, but the thing is, like, you gotta look at the
Uh-huh.
generation I came in, where I grew up. I'm from New York. I'm from a hard
Yeah, me
place,
too.
right?
I'm from New York too.
Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn, so there's no, like, I'm from Brownsville, so there's no you either sink
I'm
or you
from
swim.
Staten Island and Red Hook.
Okay, my father's from Red Hook, so I understand.
For,
So
for the record, I just heard her New York accent just got in.
I know, I
from New
heard
York,
that. I heard that come out too. I was like, where'd that come from?
so you know what I'm saying? Like, New York is a place where it's like, hey, listen, you don't have time you don't have time to sit there and feel bad about yourself. You don't have time because guess what?
Yeah.
If you're not in your grind, if you're not hustling, if you're not moving forward, you're being left behind.
Yeah.
It's great like that. We just don't have the. So we're kind of like a hard people. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I just
I agree with that.
and these kids aren't. They don't have that. They get a
I
little
agree
bit.
with that too. And you saying that, I do think that, like I said, I think that this generation is more woke, but I think that they should take a nap sometimes because because I think that it's made some of them soft. I do like think that,
You're
and I think
goddamn
that
right it has.
and I think that contributes to what you saying, like maybe grit or something like that. Like, I don't want to say too much, but I was around a group of people who are, some of them are like younger than me, and I consider them to be very woke. And I always have to be mindful that I don't trigger anyone. And I'm pretty woke, I would say myself, but being from New York, I'm a little, so I, huh?
You're a little spitfire. You got a little edge to you.
And I might say something that I think is funny, but it might be a little inappropriate, like I shouldn't have told that story about the cum on the face.
Maybe that's not
I
as
didn't
woke as
know
they
that.
thought.
I thought it was funny.
Maybe they're not that woke as they thought.
No, but that's the thing. They're
Quick to
so
get
woke they're so woke that they're very sensitive.
right.
But,
Oh,
but isn't this more like
We've
a
created such
feeling?
good times. We've created such good times. There's this cycle throughout humanity, right? There's going to be tough times make tough people. Tough people make good times. Good times make weak people. And
It sounds like Star Wars.
this cycle just continues. So we had this generation. We had tough times. We had the Great Depression. We had World War II. We had these tough times, which created tough people, people with grit, people that were just going to figure it out. They were going to make it happen, whatever that meant. If they had to go get a second job, if they had to go get another career option, if they had to, whatever it was, they figured it out. We had these tough people. These tough people built this cushy foundation for the next several generations, and we've laid on it, right? And now we're getting to the times where people have become soft, and we're gonna have another reset. There's gonna be tough times, and
I
out
have
of
no
those
idea what that's gonna look like.
tough times are coming, and we're gonna create more tough people, and the cycle will continue.
that's true.
I have no idea what that's gonna look like.
It's gonna look like the recession in the early 2000s. Because when we
It's
came out
already
of high school,
happening.
That
Yeah.
part,
that's what happened.
yeah.
Look,
I mean,
look at the
like
stock
the
market right now over
people.
the past month. Look at it. Look at it.
It's like
Cryptocurrency
that
has
every
lost half.
January. It's like
It's
that every January.
it's
You
lost
compare
half
the
of its
market,
value. This is the worst January in the history of the stock market.
and they said that last year as well, and then it jumped right
This
up.
this is the worst stock market in the January in the history of the stock market.
They
Just let
literally
that
said
sink in.
that
Let that sink in.
I've let it
But
sink in.
we don't have another. We can't be like, oh, it's 2020
But that's the
pandemic
cushiony
time.
thing that you were talking about. That cushion did not work. It wasn't working in the process. Someone should have called it out, and they didn't. And what I'm trying to say is, Generation Z, while they are soft as hell, they are oversensitive. They should take a goddamn nap, absolutely. And sometimes they talk way too much shit. I 100% agree with those things. They are more aware of what works and what doesn't work. They are more transparent with the fact that, like, what I was saying is you cannot tell me we've ever had as many children that are, like, I can't remember, there's none that are older than 8 years old, but they're all younger than 17, going to the Senate and making a difference. You can't tell me that we've ever had that before.
Are they actually
ever.
making a difference, though?
They are. That's the craziest part, because they're children doing this. They are they're making more of a difference than any adult that's
They
been
can't
able to
even
do
vote.
so.
They just have a platform. Listen,
They have a platform.
That's not
Thank
that
you.
impressive.
That's what I know.
But that's not that impressive because everybody has a platform now.
Yeah.
Just
But
think
they're
about this.
children. But they are children.
There have always been highly intelligent children. There have always been children that have been skipped ahead 2 and 3 times. There have always been children that have been able to get accepted into Mensa at an early age with IQs of 150 or above. They've always had that. The
Right.
problem is most people don't know what Mensa is. Nobody knows what the criteria to get into Mensa is. Now, with technology being the way it is, people being able to do research and people being able to be on TikToks and people, you can create a platform and you can showcase this and show this. That's the problem. There's so many. We're on a platform right now. We didn't have this 10 years ago. They have a platform now. Because that other little girl, the environmental,
They did have them 10 years ago.
Greta
We're in
Thunberg?
2022. We
You mean
had
Greta
them 10 years
Thunberg?
ago.
Greta Thunberg. We wouldn't know who she was if it wasn't for social media. All of it is not that impressive. It's just that they have a platform. And they had enough of a platform. They had enough of a platform and they were able to generate enough of a visceral reaction in people that it got them a little bit of attention. But they're not doing anything.
But you're not going to sit here and tell me that that's not something special. You're not going to sit here and be able to tell someone that, like, a child being able to do
you know why? Because that child did not leave the house. That child did not leave their house, buy a plane ticket, fly to DC and speak before the Senate. They have people behind them. They have organizations behind them. They have nonprofits behind them. They have money behind them that make them the face of this message. There are plenty of people that are saying the same exact thing. But once you have money behind you and you have an organization behind you that can put you as the face of an organization, I'm not like, that's why. Because they have engineers and they have social engineering and stuff like that. They just make her the face of the message.
I absolutely agree with that.
Platform, is that what you mean by? I'm sorry, I was just wondering, when you say platform, is that what you mean by platform?
He means any sort of platform, whether it's social media or being able to just promoted. And 100% the financial portion and having that backup, 100%. But what I'm trying to explain is that we have never had as many children trying to do the same thing. That takes courage. That takes, like, grit, as you were saying. It's just a different kind of grit, because what we had to grow up with, what we had to endure to, like, keep going was like a hard wall, right? There's only a certain amount of directions or journeys that we could pick to get to from point A to point B. These kids have so many different paths that are allowing them to do so, but it's still the person's choice whether they want to do it or not. Whereas what our job, or our generation, millennial, this is the biggest thing that I've seen, which is millennial generation was all about teamwork, about how can we all, like, just as we're on this podcast right now, how can we all come to an understanding? How can we all understand each other? How can we make a movement? The newer generation is all about independence. And so where they are seeing that things were not working before, they're pointing it out where we didn't. I mean, there's I wish that you guys could take some time out to see the crazy things that these kids are doing, because it's not normal. I'll tell you this. I'm gonna use a personal story. Okay. It's gonna be real personal. So I've been having issues with my mom. I've been having issues with my mom, the way that she raised me. And she was like I always nicknamed her my dad because she was tough, right? Mm-hmm. My mom was very, rough with her words and rough with her fists. And she was trying to raise me to be strong for this world, right? And so that didn't work with me. I moved out, or I ran away when I was like 15, never went back. We have a pretty good relationship now, but some stuff came up recently where we kind of like hit heads, right? My mom also has another daughter, and she's Generation Z. When I was her age, I couldn't speak up for myself. I couldn't say the things that I wanted. I couldn't, on an emotional level, articulate or understand what was happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
My mom is not anywhere. She's not doing the same things that she did with me, that she's not doing the same things to her that she did with me. But she's still rough around the edges, and it still hurts a kid, right? And I'm talking to my sister, and she's 10 years old, and she turns to me and she says, I think she really doesn't hate me. I think she hates herself. And if you understand psychology, and when a person's that kind of angry and they have that kind of hurt and that kind of stuff, like that's the truest statement that you can make. But what is crazy to me is how a 10-year-old is able to articulate that and say that and understand what they're saying. That's what I'm trying to say is different about this generation, where they are stupid, and she's socially awkward, doesn't like to make friends, has a bunch of friends online, but doesn't like to make new friends in person. She is not athletic. She doesn't like sports. She doesn't like being active. She doesn't like any of those things.
No disrespect to that, but she sounded like me when I was 10. I wasn't like athletic. I didn't know how to dance. I was socially awkward.
There's
But when
more
I
of
got
them
the house,
now.
yeah, but when I got there's more. That's why I'm arguing. Like it sucks because there's
But
more of them now.
but
They're
which
all
is
about the cell phones, the tablets. But
but
go
does
ahead.
it make
When you work out of it though, we
but
all
what
had
I'm
a stage.
right, but what I'm trying to say is that necessarily a bad thing when at that age they're developing at a more miraculous speed? Because it's not just my sister.
Emotionally.
Emotionally, they are
Uh-huh.
more intellectually and emotionally advanced than we were at that age. And it's not just my sister. This is something that I've talked to school teachers about, psychologists about. It's not just one or two kids. It is the generation. I mean, if you talk to any of your if anyone has kids, like they say things and you're just
I got
like,
two
what the
kids.
hell? Yeah, you're just like, how do you know this? How do you know to say that? How do you know what's happening right now? That's what I'm trying to say is different.
But I
That
feel like our
awareness,
parents said that about us.
Yeah.
Our
to a
parents said
certain
that about us.
I
to a
have an
certain
example.
degree, to a certain degree, but not the way it is now. Sorry, go ahead.
I
I'll
don't
give an
know.
example. I'm sorry. I'll give an example.
My example is something that I saw on Abba and Preach. As you know, I'm not saying as you know, if you watch them, then you know that they are always reacting to Jubilee videos.
Correct.
And Jubilee is like they'll take a group of people and they will ask them a bunch of questions and they have to answer them whatever. And this one, it had Gen Z, maybe it wasn't millennials, it was like under millennials or under that, but I think it was the one right below millennials. And they asked them a lot of social questions, whether it be gender or whether it be like depression and going to therapy, or whether it was a lot of like social, just like inner personal and like social questions.
Mhm.
And their answers were very woke, to make it very simple so I keep talking. And Abbott and Preach were saying like their opinion of things was that that generation, excuse me, was more emotionally like aware, from that, and that wasn't like, of course it's like anecdotal, but it was, a Jubilee thing. But it was something that Abbott and Preach felt that they are seeing more and more, that younger generation was more, just more open to diversity, more open to, just more like fluid in their thoughts, than instead of being like maybe more rigid and conservative.
I see the more diversity. Primer, do you have a thought on that?
I guess here's my thought, and I agree. There's a lot of people that are out there making these connections, but here's the other side to that coin: is there's people out there that are ending themselves because they got downvoted on TikTok.
They did notice more depression. That was the one thing that they noticed out of the whole thing, besides saying, okay, this society is this generation of people is more this and more that. But the one thing that they did point out was that they were more depressed.
Yeah. So, I mean, is it really a good thing? Because if we have a substantial amount of people that have a problem, and it's to the level of where it impacts their daily lives or their daily functions, then that's a pretty systemic problem. And I feel like there's definitely a prevalence of, people talk about online bullying or some of these other things that go along with that. And yeah, it's great that they're out there on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and doing all the things, but there's kids that I've heard direct stories of, my kid didn't go to school today because some people were making fun of him on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
You got to be able to function in the real world, and that's you got to be able to function, because at the end of the day, the world is not all sunshine and rainbows and kittens. The world is a mean, nasty, dirty place, and it doesn't really care if you like it or you don't. And you gotta have some grit, and I feel like we're losing that grit.
I have to agree with you.
I agree with you too.
But I do think that they're still kids, and if they're that way, who raised them? We did.
Exactly.
That's that's our generation.
No, we're not their parents. That's the generation under us. So we're like their older brother, sister.
The Generation Z?
I don't know which one's under millennial.
Yeah, that's Generation Z.
Aren't they in their 20s?
No, they're anywhere from 10 years old to 25. They're children.
These are
Huh?
I have a 15-year-old. My son's about to be 15.
What I'm trying to say is that it started with our generation, with our Karens, right? Because that's oversensitivity.
Did you say with our parents or our Karens?
Our Karens.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Because those ones were the ones that really when a child. So when we fell down, right? What did our parents do? Get back up.
Rub some dirt on it. Come on, let's go.
They knew, I was outside playing with worms and bugs when I was in kindergarten. I loved bugs, right? Now I'm watching my mom, and she doesn't let her go outside. I'm like, you're the problem. I told her the same thing. I'm like, what are you doing? That's a total different way that you raised me. And I same mom. I don't know what's happening, but I was like, that's a total different way than you raised
my mother
me.
Too. And my baby sister, my middle child, she babies them, she cuddles them.
And I was
they can go after her verbally. And she'll just be like, and she'll tolerate it. But with me,
but it was
let
different.
me say something back to my mom.
And that's why I'm bringing that up, though, because it's a societal thing. That's 100% a societal thing. So if the shift happened, it's not just like an individual; it's a societal thing where what our generation did was we overly became sensitive to feelings, to this, to that, to this, to our now the Generation Z. They are. Their cancel culture, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say that's
I'm scared of that shit.
That's BS. That's straight up BS.
I can't handle that.
People without having any facts.
Someone tried to cancel me.
That's the Generation X. That's the Generation X, or whoever came before us, which is technically what Angelus falls in at the tail end of.
Oh wow, let's cancel him.
So the problem, and the
old school, baby, I come at your door.
The reason why I say that is because I can't, at the age I am right now, even
How old are you?
I'm 34. I'll be 35 in April. So
what day?
Even at
what day?
I'll tell you offline.
I want to know too.
Rosie's like, show me everything. Show me.
I'm gonna be 34 the last day of March.
Yeah, you just like, hey, Prime, she just like fresh and fit now. Hey, give me your social security number and everything.
What's your body count? That passport, just hold it up. Hold it up.
Right? Open your wallet. Let me see ID real quick.
Sorry.
So no matter what workforce we would have went into, we would at best be middle management right now, right? We're not old enough to institute any type of significant organizational change at any level at 34 years old. Unless we start our own company, unless you're an entrepreneur. I'm talking about the people that make rules, right? In any bureaucracy. The societal change that happened is that now bureaucracy got involved. Bureaucracy got involved in schools, and it got involved in things outside of the household, right? Because you can only raise your child so much. But when your child goes to school, this is what I'm seeing. When I was a recruiter, what I saw was the biggest difference. Because when kids went to school,
100% right.
they don't.
You're 100%
She was
right.
agreeing.
I remember when they took away the Pledge of Allegiance.
They took away discipline. Teachers aren't able to discipline students. Teachers, you have to toe the bureaucratic line. If the school says, "Hey, in this situation, you have to do this, or you're going to lose your job," right? You got schools now under the charter network. Schools have to tell kids to go to college. If they tell them anything else, they're getting fired. Because you're an at-will employee, you don't work for the state, you don't work for the city. And the school gets credit for you going to college, the kid going to college. They don't get credit for the kid going to the military. They don't get credit for the kid taking a gap year or anything like that. So if that kid doesn't apply to school, like it could be a kid in your class and be like, "Hey, we need 100% college acceptance. Make sure that they apply to this community college because they taking everybody. If they don't apply, they'll check down one kid. They'll be like, "Oh, we're at 99.9%. Why hasn't Derek turned in his application yet or done his FAFSA? Oh, he said he's going to take a gap year. Well, if he takes a gap year, you're fired."
A gap year?
Yeah.
Like a year off after
Like a
high
year
school,
off.
you mean? Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm going to take a year off, chill.
Like I'm gonna take a year off and backpack through Europe. Remember, people used to say that. I never knew anyone who said it, but it was on TV all the time.
Dr. Zibit, my economic professor, my second senior year, he did that when he was in college. And guess what? Now I'm in Germany.
Damn, Matt, you know what happened in my day? Because I want to.
Oh, back in my day.
Yeah. I have to, man. Because like when he said something about the school and stuff like that, and the teachers and the permission for beating, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. When I remember very clearly, 3rd and 4th grade, if I got in trouble at school, the teacher had permission to paddle my butt.
There was a
mom
paddle.
talked
There was a
about that.
paddle, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Bro, the
My
paddle
mom
had
talked about
primal, bro. The paddle had a goddamn name.
Yeah.
And then if the teacher wasn't convincing enough, whoosh, the principal get involved. Now we ain't gonna go through the whole racial shit because I ain't feel all that back then. But I felt the sting, and he gave you certain amount of lashes. Like, hey, you know you're gonna get 3. Those are the hardest 3 hits of a paddle on your behind. You had rhythm when you swing to make sure you get less impact from that. So,
and you know what?
I mean, my mom talks about that too. I can't lie though. Being a mom, if somebody put their hands on my kid, we don't have.
Well,
to.
the last time I remember they changed it. But go ahead.
That's where the change came.
Yep.
Yeah, and I want to link this into like just the bigger societal picture too. And here's the thing I think that is also gone the way of the dinosaur with discipline, but is real world consequences for your actions.
What school is this?
Hey, let me tell them real quick. The early county school in Blakely, Georgia, sir. That's when I was like in my 4th and 5th grade. That's in Georgia. Now,
and no, but for my
small towns
parents,
in Alabama, Georgia, go ahead, let somebody lie to you and tell you they never got the ass beat by a paddle or something back in, would you say 20 years back? So I'm not gonna remember the numbers on that, but I'm 43. So go 20 years back, 18, 15 years back. But it was a real thing.
To backpack up for what he said. That's not the right phrasing, but we're gonna go with it.
Yeah.
My grandparents used to say that to my mother and her siblings, and that was in New York. So
yeah, you got it.
My mother went to Catholic school.
Yep.
So you definitely
Yeah, some Catholic schools, man. Those nuns, they got them rulers.
My mom's telling me about that all the time.
Yeah.
But I guess what I was saying is, it seems like consequences for actions have totally fallen off of a cliff. Like, yeah. I remember a couple. It wasn't many times, but there were a couple times my dad swatted my ass, right? And I didn't put myself in the position where I was going to get my ass swatted by my dad because it hurt and I was scared of that and I didn't want that shit to happen again, right? And I feel like nowadays kids can go into a teacher's room, give them the finger, tell them to go pound sand, and what happens to the kid?
Therapy. Is that wrong with you? Let's go talk it out.
No, like listen, if the teacher doesn't
not even
follow
therapy, they don't even get any repercussions. He's right.
No repercussions. So
I think that's not just school. That's fallen out to society.
Life. Like in the
My
army, right? You can't smoke people no more. Like there's no making some people. There's no physical punishment as corrective action anymore.
Not even as a group, because I remember back in the day, just in JRTC, if one messed up, everybody messed up. They don't do that.
Oh, it's like a
that happened when
maximum.
I was in ROTC.
It's a maximum like 10, it was like 10 years ago before I was an NCO. It was like 10 years ago, like 10. You could only do up to 10 repetitions. And like it's crazy because I was just coming into the army now, and I'm sitting there like 10 repetitions. I just got finished doing 50.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
I have a question for the room, because consequence, I'm not sure. I know my kids have consequences for their actions. I'm not sure how about like the younger society, about like how their consequences are looking. I'll be honest, but I think that maybe it's the younger generation, or maybe it's society, I don't know, but I think that cancel culture is attempting to give people a consequence, but I don't think it's working right.
You gotta have
I
meetings
think
about
it's
this
putting
now.
so much fear into the people that would be handing out the consequences that
Yes.
they're afraid to do it. So, like, if I'm gonna spank my kids because they were naughty, I'm afraid of getting my ass canceled for spanking my children.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a war on power. What's the one thing that they say to anybody, right? Oh, well, you had some kind of power in this situation. You had power and you abused it, right? So it's a
Okay.
war on people that have power to do anything.
Yeah.
So that I don't know if it's trying to level the playing field, but there's a caste system in life. There has to be a hierarchy. Now you can't abuse it, you know what I'm saying? But now they're going after everybody for everything. You can't have an opinion about nothing.
Nothing.
You getting canceled. You done.
Voice your opinion, you're screwed.
Like Primal gave the analogy about, tough times make tough men make soft times make soft men make.
Yeah.
Well, guess
Fear
what?
becomes
The
anger,
word is
anger
men.
becomes hate. Very Star Wars, I get it.
No, the original, the reference he's talking about originally was men. It's an old what's the name from like the 70s or whatever, some
Mhm.
sociologist, whatever that said it. It was men. He said people. See, that's he was scared to get canceled. He said
Because I keep it real, man. Like I know the game, right? I know the game. And you have to be careful. Like, and here's the other thing is I think we should be inclusive, right? And I think we should make attempts. But also, I think some people they're not trying maliciously to be mean or bad or anything like that. That's just what they know. They would say like all men are created equal, and then somebody's going to go out and cancel them for saying that. And that's a phrase that's been out for hundreds of years. And then somebody's going to be mad because they said all men are created equal instead of saying all people are created equal. Like,
Right.
I mean, those are the nitpicky things where I think some people are just taking opportunistic shots at people that are out
And do you
there.
feel like that's the youth?
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they're more in tune with how to navigate those levers. Because
I think so too.
if Deuce told me like, hey man, all men are created equal, I wouldn't think twice about it, right?
Right, yeah.
But
No,
if a
I understand what you mean.
15-year-old heard him say that, be like, oh, you can't say that. You need to say all people. Like I
Right,
feel
but
like
it's
they're more
people.
in tune. Yeah.
It's the people that come up with this stuff are actually our generation. The problem is they just have a following. They found their niche within the younger generation, and then they have a following. There are going to be more people that are in line with
Influencing.
Ro and Mink. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be more in line with them than they're going to be in line with us. We're going to have a very niche market of young men, young hard men that grew up a certain type of way. That's going to follow us, but the mass majority of people are going to follow, hey, this trend because this is the way that the society, as a larger part, or what's popular, was trending, it's flowing.
Webcam. I think I think not just like society, but like, well, let me rephrase that. I think included in society is like media, because like for example, an advertiser wants to be broad so that they can reach all customers. You know what I mean? So they want to include everybody. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to exclude people. That's less sales.
Right.
So they
Yep.
want to, they're not going to say all men are created equal. They're going to say all people so that they can include all people so they don't
Okay.
upset anyone.
Back to Greta Thunberg, right? The reason why she was put as the face is because guess what? What's going to get you more of a reaction? A 10-year-old saying that, or a 12-year, 11-year-old saying that, or a 21-year-old saying that? You know what I'm saying?
No, I feel you. Yeah.
So that's why you're putting. It's about getting an emotional reaction. This is something I even learned in recruiting. You have to attack. You have to go after people's emotions, not people's logic.
Yeah, I
Shout out
can
to Fresh and
totally.
Fit.
I totally see that. I see that a lot. And like, I'm more of a logic thinker. I don't know if it's watching too much Star Trek or something. So that's why a lot of times I'll look around me and I'll feel like I'm not
No,
really
you agree
clicking with people.
Listen, you know how we. You know
Yeah,
how we.
we
feel.
no.
I don't give a-
But see,
I don't give a fuck how you feel.
Yeah,
You
but
better
that's
do
the
the work on
yeah,
at
but see,
9 o'clock.
that's why I love bro, because that's the thing. As soon as she because I'm from Jersey. As soon as she said it, I was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? That was just that right there is like, I get you, you get me. Nothing else said. And she's like the sweetest person. She's just sweet. I guess because when she came here on the other end of this planet where she's at, now she got so polite, and I was like, damn, you just so fucking sweet. Like I wouldn't mind if you walked up, I was like, yo, shut the fuck up. Hey, we good.
Really?
Oh, we good. And then Primal too, because me and Primal's pretty much like as far as the same age gap. So it's like if he says something, I was like, I understand you. I so understand. Like he gets me, I get you. But man, I'm still on it. And I'm sorry, Minka. Just the generation, like I'm not seeing them as woke as they're supposed to be, except for when it comes down to this technology. And from what everybody else is saying now is just like
They're
I
woke.
get
They're
it.
just overly
Maybe
sensitive
I get it.
too.
Yeah, it's like I get it, but I don't get it at the same time. Like, and then it's like you have to like either spoon feed or hand hold, and then like a lot of stuff what Deuce was bringing up
I hate
that's very
spoon feeding
informative.
somebody.
Yeah, especially stuff that Deuce is saying is very informative. It's like now it's like our generation pretty much have to work with them to try. Hey, and I get it. And this is my thing. This is what I get. And I'll let you go ahead, Deuce. I get it. Our forefathers and everybody else, then some, our grandfathers, whatever, bust our asses to make sure that we and then a generation before us, even Rose children, everybody else, your sister can be a little bit more comfortable. And I get it. That's the world we want to live in. We don't want to live in a society now to be struggling, but we need to understand the generation now needs to understand where we came from. So when they go to these schools,
this sounds very like it just sounds so familiar because if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that this is the kind of conversation that the generation that raised us had about us.
It's all circle.
I'm just throwing it out there that like all I was trying to say was we should give them a little bit more credit because we were once them.
And
it's
I'm
the same
saying,
position that they're at right now.
I'm saying, and if anybody want to agree with me, I'm saying proof is in the pudding.
Show me. Like
my mother told me, show me better than you can tell me. I'll show you better than I can tell you. That's it.
Listen, right now, I'm a recruiter, right? When I was an Army recruiter, there's kids that can't talk to you. Like when we talk about technology, right? They be on their phone all the time. They cannot look you in the eye when they're having a conversation with you. A grown man that can't shake your hand. You get kids, you got all this mouth on social media, but then I'll see you look at like Mom, can you read that for me? Or like parents having an order for them, like they'll look at what they want. Like you ever go watch, go to McDonald's, go somewhere and watch. And you'll see like that little 18-year-old, 19-year-old, like telling their mom what to order, what to tell the waitress, or what to tell the person at the counter. And I'm sitting there like, what? And they're like, oh no, she's just shy. She's a little too damn old to be shy.
Yeah,
he's a little too damn old for that.
I think it's so interesting when I hear that, only because I am a mom, but I have a little bit of like a different situation with my eldest son. I have 2 boys. He has autism, so like there were times. It's definitely different. Like, but as his mom, like and that's what I was writing down so I wouldn't forget, because like one time but I was trying to force him to pay for stuff on his own, and I was just like, it started with me just sitting off to the side and like trying to get him to purchase some things on his own, and like, you got to do it, you're gonna have to do this. But the other day he wasn't feeling good in school, and he has trouble with his emotions, so I try to be understanding more so, and he was having like a lot of anxiety.
See,
And he was texting me from school, and he was like, I was telling him like, listen, you can't miss days of school, blah blah blah. And he texts me and he says, I feel like I'm backed in a corner. And I text him back and I'm like, that's because you are backed in a corner, because when you're an adult, you have to go to work if you want to eat. And everyone is backed into a corner because they have to do this thing if they want food. So you are backed into you are in a corner. You have to be at school. There's no ends, ifs, or buts about it.
I applaud you on that one.
If I had to keep real, I'm like, that's because you are. I'm glad you realize you're in a corner.
At some point, the world's going to come looking. Yeah,
and he has autism,
so I have to
produce. Yeah. My mom said it perfectly. It's you as a parent. What you do is you prepare your child for the world, because when you're gone, they need to be able to survive. And I think that a lot of the parents that have been raising their kids, like, I don't know if it's too busy or too much shit was going on, but like a lot of people lost sight of that, where it's like these kids are not, who knows what's going to happen to them. And it's not like, forget everything we've been talking about, their stupidity, their ability to do this and to do that. What is the most important is, what are your kids going to be like when you're gone? And I think that's the most important thing. And I don't think there's enough people remembering that. Like what you did was hard, because then you have, like, let's say your son like wanted to fight back, or he posted the conversation on like TikTok saying like, she's abandoning me. I'm joking. Hypothetical. Hypothetical.
I'm like, oh, so you want the smoke? Is what you're saying. I wish you would.
But it's also very real, right? And that's the part where it's like, at a certain point, like, the adults have to be the adults and the kids have to be the kids. And it's regardless of cancel culture or anything, like, we have to kind of put our foot down, because they're not.
I think my thing with the youth is the sensitivity. That's my gripe with the youth.
That's my biggest.
That's probably my only thing.
Just don't know how to actually handle things. I think that's my big two issues with them. Don't know how to handle stuff the way we used to handle things. Don't know how to address certain situations. Like I said, with work, interviews, shaking your hand, awkwardness. It just and to me, it's not a lot. It's not that hard to do. To me, it wasn't that hard to do. I don't care about everything else, like the learning curves when you get up, or you're falling and scratching, bump your knee, and got a boo boo. Okay, great. But when it comes to now, you actually start slowly acclimating to the world. The stuff that Rogue had gave her own artistic son to do. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, you can't do that for the regular kids. But no, people want to take these counselings and lessons and let them stay in the house, and then throw them tablets and cell phones. Yeah. Oh, he'll be okay. Okay, so what? They'll do something fuck up for like 1 month, like one day, and then the next month later they get like a $1,500 PS5. What? It's ridiculous.
I will say though, I did have a mom, kind of like how Mika. Is that how you say it? Mika. Okay.
Whatever.
Mika. My mom was like that too. My mom, like I would never talk back to my mom.
Oh hell no.
And my mom, and even though I didn't, like, she still put hands on me, and I would still just like stand there and take it. But like I don't think that worked for me, Am I like tougher? Yeah. Sometimes I don't think so, but then, and maybe I'm around these type of people more than maybe you are, Angelus, but when I'm around my mom or me. So I was reading the comment. But Angelus, I'm around some people who are like on Twitch and stuff like that. And they, like I said, it's a group of people who are very woke. And I was actually just talking about this with my friend who's from New York too. So he's more like me.
I swear to God, every time she said, I hear that New York accent kick in. But go ahead. I love you though.
But I sometimes I don't think I'm very tough. Like, I have depression, I have anxiety. I sometimes I exclude myself from certain things that I feel like is gonna bother me, and I'll watch a Marvel movie instead because that's my zone, you know.
Mhm.
But like me maybe watching a movie and something happening in that movie isn't going to like trigger me and like make me like super super upset. And I get that some people have like experiences, but like out like in this group of people, you know, it's like, oh, you didn't give a trigger warning, and I'm like, but it's rated R, bro.
Yeah.
Like the warning's in R. Like I can't help you. You have to be grown and figure it out because it's gonna go down. But I'm not gonna not watch The Witcher. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I am trying to accommodate, but then I'm also like not. I'm not as like that as sensitive. I don't know. So that's my thing that I feel like
You
I
have coping
noticed.
mechanisms. You develop
I
coping
did
mechanisms.
develop coping mechanisms. I
Yeah.
So
did,
as adults,
and like
that's
my
the thing.
family members, their coping mechanisms were like drugs, and my coping mechanism is video games.
Anxiety, depression, all this stuff. None of this stuff is new. No offense, autism. It's not new. You know what
No,
I'm
it's
saying?
not
Like
new.
there
Yeah,
was always kids like that our whole life. But because there were no,
diagnosis.
diagnosis, right? Because it wasn't really a thing. You know what I'm saying
Yeah,
back then. So like these kids were forced to adapt. Some of them, we they called them strange, they called them weird, but they kids they got put in a tough situation, and then they were told to adapt, and they did. When you start giving people crutches, then they start. Oh, so, here's an excuse. Here's an excuse. Here's another excuse. You know what I'm saying? So that you don't have to put in the work. You don't have to put in the grind. You don't have to develop that grit. And that's what we're going through now. It's always people. It's always been around. There's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new. But how you deal with it. You know what I'm saying? And
it just
being more sensitive to things is great. But there's a point where
a
you're too
line.
sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, the line.
A very
And
good
we're
line.
getting so far over the line every day. As
You
soon as they
become
put into the double
non-functional. You
digits,
become you go so far to become non-functional,
There,
right?
well, but
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Thank
I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
Are you good?
No, I was interrupting Primal.
No, I was just saying, like that's the thing is like I think everybody should have respects for these different things that are out there in the world, and there are certain barriers, right? And there's certain things, but at the end of the day, like the expectation is you're going to become a functional person, and you need to do whatever it is you need to do, whether that's counseling, whether that's medication, whether that's therapy, whatever that is, and we need you to go out there and be a functional person. And I think that we're getting to the point where people are just saying you don't have to be a functional person anymore.
Correct. Oh, that thought, because that sounded like a final thought right there. So we're gonna do like this. So it's an hour and 26 minutes in. We're gonna do final thoughts, and we're gonna exit out, and we're gonna start another one. So keep in mind, I'm gonna show everybody where to go. You go to the Gray Pill Podcast on the YouTube channel because we're pretty much live on both ends. We're both ends on for YouTube, and we're live on the Facebook just for the other viewers out there. So we're gonna go through final thoughts, and then we're gonna exit out. Then we're gonna start again for a whole reaction to a video. All right. Go ahead, Miss Minka. We're gonna do final thoughts.
I'm gonna go last.
All right. All right. What about you, Miss Rogue? What we got going on? Final thought.
Oh, and just I just want to clarify, like before I
Sure.
told my son to get over it, I did ask him if anyone in school was like messing with him first. And once he said no, I was like, oh, so then you're done. But but my final thoughts is I think that the youth is really like progressing where they're like very aware and like kind of woke and things like that. But I do think that it's to Azula. I think that it's to a point where they might need to take a nap.
Everybody showing off dogs?
This is Azula.
I want a dog too.
Oh, come here, Shrek.
What the hell? I swear to God, dude, you bring your fucking dog, I'm gonna get pissed. Don't do it.
Go away. Go away.
Everybody
I wish
bring
I
out
had a dog.
animals.
Like, come here, boy. Come on.
Go away.
I feel jealous now.
I used to have a pit bull.
Maybe Deuce is right. Maybe I am that cancel culture generation.
What's up, guys?
Your dog, Mickey, your
The
dog look like a
baby.
hostage.
She is.
I listen to audiobooks too. I'm listening to The Witcher right now.
Okay, cool. We're also on Spotify, K. I'm just gonna say K because I don't want to be like Duke and chop up your name. But that shout out to Duke of Dawn though. But yeah. We also have the Great Pope Podcast and Spotify, Facebook, and of course where you at now and YouTube. So what do you have, Deuce, for any final thoughts?
Listen, sensitivity and stuff is good. I think people should be more thoughtful about other people. I think that's the cool thing I like about where society is headed. I think they're going a little too far over the line. I really got too much to say to the ladies. I think that's a conversation for another time. I know what triggered me was the dudes. So for the dudes out there, toughen up, stop being a bitch. That's it. So,
That in the mouthful. And you got a fan, Primo, but fun fact for you. She's rocking her baby like god damn.
Yeah, you can pet both my dogs. They're both good girls. They're the best girls. Not that other people's puppies aren't best girls too, or
No, it's
best
cool. Mine
boys too,
stink.
but
she's a little bit correct, Primal. See, you go.
Yeah, I know.
and but they get jealous. They get jealous of each other. So anybody's welcome to come pet them anytime. You know what I'll say is I'm super thankful that my dad was kind of an old school generation type mentality. And I won't lie, there were times in my upbringing that I didn't like him very much.
Yeah.
But now, as a parent and as an adult that's out in the world and doing my thing, I really am super thankful that he was tough on me, because I feel like that instilled the values and the grit and the things I needed to do to be successful. And I feel like I'm passing that along to my children. So I hope that they get that grit and toughness and they go out there in the world and they're successful. And I hope they continue to pass that on. Because I agree with Deuce, what you were saying, sensitivity is important. I think we need to be, there's times in our lives when we need to be open and sensitive to things, but then there's also times we just need to get shit done.
Yeah.
Right.
Or shut the hell up.
That too.
That part.
Mm-hmm.
That too. Use
Yep.
but I would say this and I'll let make it go and I'm be brief. I agree with everybody's perspectives on this, and I want to chime in something Roke said because you are a good mom and stuff. I hear the qualities. And there's another thing a lot of people don't understand, especially with I'll just say older generation, and it seems like it's worse now with the younger generation. I get it. There's no perfect handbook to being a good parent or those tools for the next generation. I get it. But at the same time, when it comes to certain criteria and certain things, I feel like we should have those basic tools just to get it done. And if you don't, start looking through the avenues to get it done. Back in the day, we had neighbors, we had church, we had like you said, religious
village kind of thing.
A big accountability because people will throw it in your face and let you know about it, bullies and stuff like that. We kind of sort of don't have that now. So now we got these technologies and me and Deuce made a joke about it earlier. YouTube, YouTubing is your
YouTube
Bible.
University.
YouTube University. That's your Bible for certain things. So if you don't know, hey, and I'll tell people real quick when they ask for directions, you got a smartphone? Yeah. So if you spend $1,000 on a smartphone, okay, you got a plan, Google it, figure it out. And then people get out of no lie, the ex-girlfriend got mad at me about that because I told her, like, you're always on your phone, you're face down on your phone. So if you're gonna ask me a question, especially a basic question, you got your phone? Hey, there you go. So I'm gonna leave it like that. I really think that
I forgot to add something.
Go ahead, but I just really think the new generation just need to figure out some things of their own and stop being a little bit too babyish about stuff. But go ahead, Rogue, and we'll let Mika finish out.
I just forgot to add that, Mika, you have such nice lips.
All right, there you go. Love
It's so nice. I just want to pick out different lip glosses with you.
Gotta
Mika losing it. She can't keep it. It's okay, Mika. Bring it on back. Bring it on back.
I like when Mika it hinges her she just off that teeter a little bit. She'd be so focused.
She just covers it up.
I can't. Thank you.
You're welcome.
She didn't say anything about the gentleman's lips. I don't understand.
No, y'all are good.
Hers
Yeah.
is popping.
Y'all are good.
I know. Dudes are using gloss twice. You ain't catch on to
Yeah,
that?
you know, you
You got that
gotta
chapstick
keep it
out.
soft and supple.
Yeah.
Feeling some type of way. He's like,
I'm over here keeping them soft and supple. Nobody
Yeah,
said nothing about
exactly.
that.
Can't win for losing, man. Can't win for
Oh my
losing.
god, I'm dead. Wow.
What you
Oh,
got,
man.
wifey? Bring us home.
After that one, I'm like, I'm gonna say this. It's definitely way too sensitive. I'm in LA. We have gender neutral bathrooms. I fucking hate it. It's the stupidest thing I think that's ever happened. It's literally like they are. I don't know if there's a dude or a girl. I'm like, what the hell is going? I've seen like 4 dicks in the last like 5 years. It's a nightmare, and I think
Hate
that's
looking
the
at
like
dicks.
when Deuce talks about the lip. I mean, I'm sorry, what?
She's on the lip. She's focused on the
I
lip.
said nothing about
It's on our mind.
Mika's shook. Mika's shook over here. Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm blushing. I haven't blushed in years. Wow.
See, fellas, that's how you do it.
Yeah, that is. That's true.
Rogue dropping game. Rogue dropping game. Here's hints. Just tell them they got beautiful lips.
Listen,
Oh,
if
yeah.
I would have said that, they would afterwards they'd be like, "Hey, listen, you're not allowed on the show no more." I was really at a point.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the cat. Okay, wait. I do have to say that too because that's a part of the whole. Woo! You just dropped a bomb and you don't even know it. So this whole oversensitive cancel culture of even in men approaching women and vice versa, people are scared to approach each other just because of the cancel culture too. Like, oh, he was too this, he was too that. Bitch, didn't you say no one's hitting on you? Like that's a huge part of it too. And I think that I think at the end of the day that it is gonna be I think they'll find their way if they don't burn it down to the ground first. But like I think that it is kind of our responsibility as the older generation to teach these kids because we have to call them out. We're old. I've been canceled like 5 times already. I don't care. Like it's our job to say the truth of like, hey, you're messing up. Hey, that's too sensitive. Hey, like you shouldn't be canceling someone because they drink dairy and you don't like hurting cows. Like it's just too much. But I think that we also should not be as judgmental towards them as our older generation was towards us, because I think then we're also repeating the cycle too. Instead of being allies towards the newer generation and helping them, we're actually pushing them away.
I think it hinders them. Oh, that's your final thought.
No. I'm not saying be sensitive and like hold their hand. What I'm saying is like just like my nephew, he didn't know to walk on the right side of the street. I'm saying like it's our job. Like, I mean, Angeles, you've mentioned a couple of times one of the young guys that you work with, you give him pep talks, like you tell him what's up, and if he chooses to do it, cool. If he doesn't, you're like, hey, you dumb.
We've all been told,
Yeah.
and I'm a fan of 3 strikes. I'm a fan of 3 strikes, but we've all been told this before. I've told you before. Like we've been told it by our parents. Hey, I told you before.
I've said it.
You know what I'm saying? So the next time he does it, I told you before. You always walk on the side of the street. You know what I'm saying? You get a little more sterner as you go along, let them know. But you've been told. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%.
Now you're just not paying attention.
100%. Because I one thing I mentioned the stuff about my mom, but the truth is that like I can handle and deal with so much more than most people that I know because of the way that she raised me, because of the fact, like I said before, her whole goal was, I want you to be prepared for the world, right?
You're taking a good in.
Right. But it's also what I'm trying to say is like, I hope that
a middle ground.
No, I'm not even saying, middle ground. But what I'm saying is like, I got like 20 girls that are like 20 or 18 to 23 that I've like adopted. And I'll tell them like, hey, like one girl, like, this is what I'm trying to say. There's a girl that she's 21 years old. I call her my little sister. People are coming up to me like, hey, that doesn't look good that you're friends with her. People are going to think something of you. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. At the end of the day, what I'm doing with her is that when she gets drunk at the club and I tell her, hey, you don't have to get drunk at the club. You don't have to be messy. She's thinking, well, that's what everybody does. And I said, no, it's not. Fast forward like a couple months later, she's not doing that anymore. That's what I'm trying to say about our generation having a responsibility towards the younger generation, calling them out, helping them out the way that we can, as opposed to just, oh, you look like a hoe, I'm not going to hang out with you. That's what I'm trying to talk about.
You mentioned
coaching, mentoring. I love it.
Yeah.
nothing wrong with
I
that.
do wish that there were like more nonprofit mentory Big Brother organizations.
You don't need
out
a
there.
profit. That's the whole point.
No, I
of
said
making.
nonprofit.
I was
I
a
said-
part of it. So my mentor was I was part of a it was a nonprofit that sponsored a mentorship program, and I had a mentor since I was 14 years old. He's 10 years older than me. We're friends to this day.
I
Problem
wanted
is,
to
those
do
things
that for
go
my
under.
son.
Yeah,
Those-
so you did
Yeah,
a good
they
thing, Mika. You
do.
did a really good, you
Right,
did a
but
really good thing.
But I'm saying that everyone can do that. You find these little kids on the street all the time. Wherever it is that you go, whatever your interest is, like you go golfing, I guarantee you're gonna see some 20-something-year-old trying to golf, and you go up to them, like find out more about them. I'm just saying, as the older generation, if we want to see a change within the younger generation, we got to kind of steer them as opposed to just telling them what's wrong with them.
I agree with that.
Okay.
All right.
That's my final thought. I'm gonna
Oh,
shut
your
up.
breath stinks.
Don't talk to me that way.
Really? Golly.
She got to balance it out. She gave you a compliment. Now you got to take that down.
Get out of here.
There you go.
To the middle.
Go, go, go.
All right, guys. Again, so we're gonna close out from here. So again, you can catch us at the Gray Pill Podcast at Facebook. I will be closing out here, and we're gonna restart again for a whole nother reaction. So stay tuned for that one. So
I
again,
can't wait.
appreciate you, Deuce. Appreciate you, Primal, Rogue, as always, and as the wifey, thank you.
Bye, guys.